Hey everybody, welcome back to Aurelia. We are still in the main city, continuing the expansion. We have been busy with the roundabout place last episode, and today we are going to start yet another project, which is not going to directly continue from the already finished areas, but it's going to start some distance from it. I had this idea for a tiered residential place, which would have a train station maybe at the lowest level and some buildings around it, and this little hill right here felt like a perfect place for it. So let's see what the original idea was all about and how it all turned out in the end. Let's go. All right, so at first I wanted to build some kind of just a hole in the ground, basically, in this hill, and put the train station inside it, and then make some tiers around the train station, which would have like a square shape, and they would like stairs continue up, and maybe the lowest level would have like commercial buildings because it would be closer to the train station, noise issues and all that. And then we would have like really tall residential buildings that would basically be covered with the ground on one side and would have obviously the sides facing inside the hole, exposed, something like that. Now, for that particular idea, we would need to have a really, really deep, like hole in the ground, let's say, where the train station would be at the lowest point. So I was not exactly, able to do that. So we had to make some compromises. This is actually a footage from the live streams. I was building this really, really long time ago, and just now I'm making it into a video, although I was finishing this place already, off the stream. Like doing some tiny detailing at the end. Well, actually not that tiny, pretty much the entire detailing of this place. So very quickly, this place became a circular kind of an area, and actually it kind of started to resemble a crater, maybe like some kind of an asteroid impact crater, which was later like refurbished into some residential / commercial transportation hub or something like that. And that's exactly what this area kind of turned out to be, but I'm kind of getting ahead of this. So what exactly do we have here right now? We have the train station on the bottom. It's not exactly a train station building that's meant to be built like this, I suppose. It has the little wings on the side, and it kind of looks like, I don't know, like a plane maybe. But I kind of used these little wings to create, let's say, like a rain shelters maybe, connected them to the buildings on the side, and just make it look like it's, exactly fitting into that area, even with the stone walkway around it. So the stone walkway on the level of the train station is obviously meant only for pedestrians, but there's going to be also some tracks going into the buildings, obviously, because they are commercial, they need to be supplied. And then we have the upper level, which is the asphalt, which forms the circle, and the circle is divided in two halves by that tram road, where obviously trams are going to go, and it's going to form some kind of a transportation hub with the trains and the trams. And there's also going to be the Ollie buses as well, and we will actually see them towards the end of this episode. Now, around this level, this layer, the circular asphalt road layer, we need to build some kind of residential buildings. At first, I thought that I'm going to just build those tall buildings that I just destroyed in the time lapse, but it was not really easy with Move It to make them into this like a, what is this, 1/8 of a circle. And they were kind of overlapping weirdly. The balconies were not exactly looking right. So I went for these buildings. I think these are called the contemporary apartment buildings. No, I'm probably mistaking them for something else. But you probably know these because, they are awesome. Everyone uses them, I suppose. So I used those. And I wanted to, like I said, put buildings all around this first asphalt layer. But then it kind of looked weird. It kind of started to look like a prison, like a really, really weird place where no one really would like to be in. So I only built the black and red buildings on 1/4 of the entire portion of that level, and we are going to do something completely different for the rest of the levels. And we are actually not going to completely encircle this entire area, but we are going to keep some places open. Now, this is a huge project, and this video is already going to be a bit longer than usual. Well, actually, not that longer, but like I said, this project is so big that we are definitely not going to completely finish it in today's episode. So some areas are definitely going to be unfinished. I will probably look into those in the next episode. But today we are going to finish pretty much the center of this place. And all the buildings around it are going to be for some future episodes, probably the next one. So what I'm doing in here is pretty much finishing like 1/4 of that upper level. So I decided to do like the bottom level with those buildings facing the train station. You could have seen those already. And in there, the buildings facing the opposite way, I just use the procedural objects and use some kind of buildings to nicely fit them below that that walk path, which we can see over here. And to the walk path, I have placed those really tall skyscraper residential buildings, the 2 of them. Now, these tall buildings, or tall buildings in general, are going to be definitely around this this place. I'm not sure if in this time lapse I'm showing it. I think I am, yeah. I'm going to place another residential buildings on the opposite side, actually. But later, I do have plans for some more, like really tall residential buildings around it. But we will see how it's all going to look like. So in here, I'm already not following the shape of the circle because, like I said, it kind of started to look like a prison area, some kind of an inner courtyard where all the, prisoners used to walk in circles just to, keep them busy or something. So I definitely wanted to have a lot more variety in here. The original idea was completely abandoned at this point, and I just wanted to make it look nicer somewhat. So the inner area, which we are looking at right now, is actually not going to be covered in buildings completely. We are going to do some really nice detailing here. First off, I was doing that like a glass cover on the railroad because it felt kind of interesting to put it there. Because, we can see the trains go to the station later because that direction is a dead end right now. But later we are definitely going to see trains go there. It's going to be quite nice looking. Now, and this place, which is, well, from this view, kind of on the right of the glass, in here, I just used procedural objects for grass and created this like a angled green patch, green area, which is obviously going to be covered with some bushes and trees and all that. And there's not going to be any buildings in there. And we are also going to create like a tiered park in here, which is exactly what I'm doing in the time lapse right now. Again, I wanted to put some buildings in here, but then it kind of felt necessary that this place needs to be a bit more green than I wanted to do at first. Because at first I really wanted to do it into some sort of a super dense residential area, which is going to be just not exactly that great looking, but just, functional, like purely functional, and people are just going to live in there like in huge numbers. But it felt weird. It kind of felt weird when I was doing it, and I had to keep it a bit more green than I originally planned. So that's why this inner area right next to the train station is not really all that dense, although I will add some residential buildings there later. But they kind of all fall into this, I don't know, this nicer greenish theme. At least I think so. All right, so in here, procedural objects as per usual, doing all these fake surfaces on this tiered garden, we might call it. I'm going to add trees later, but because this project is like really big, I think that this video I edited from at least maybe like 10 hours of gameplay, I suppose. Counting obviously the streaming sessions were obviously a bit longer. But I'm kind of not showing everything in this video. I'm not going to be showing, for example, placing the trees because, it's all the same. And I'm just making a little, like, I'm not even sure how to call it. I'm just not showing everything, exactly everything, because it's just a mundane detailing that is not all that interesting in this place anyway. So we are just seeing pretty much the main highlights, I suppose, of the entire build, right? So using a lot of procedural objects, obviously, even for these buildings, because they are kind of far away from the road, especially this one. I wanted to keep the blocks kind of, nice looking without worrying too much about functionality and stuff like that. Now, this road that I was building here is like the 3rd level, I suppose. And this is something that I was not exactly sure if I should keep in the video, but I guess I would, because I wanted to kind of prepare for a future expansion of this place, right? So I created this little, well, actually the main avenue road, and this like a roof cover, concrete something over one portion or one half of the road. Now on this side, I want to place some residential buildings on top of that main avenue road. It's going to be kind of interesting to see how that will turn out, but I'm not going to be doing that in this episode. I am just showing you that I did something there because it is going to be shown in the cinematics, and obviously it might be a bit confusing and raise some questions. What is that, you know? So it's going to be for a future episode. I'm going to keep that concrete shed or concrete roof over that road, and I will try to maybe put some, maybe even these kinds of buildings over it. But we will see. We will see how, you know, how is that going to be. So this level in here is actually going to be closer to, oh, this road is creating the other side of this level closer to the train station, I suppose. And all these buildings are in here just kind of roughly placed right now, not really detailed. These blocks are not detailed at all right now. I'm just putting the buildings down pretty much just like in the previous episode where I put the buildings around the main highlight of the build that I wanted to, you know, showcase in the video, just so it would look a bit more complete, right? But it's not complete in itself. These blocks are going to be a bit more detailed, right? So these buildings in here are just procedural objects. These are the ones that I actually placed functional versions of these buildings. I placed on the other side of this crater area. I suppose I could call it crater. Residential crater, probably. That's probably going to be the name of the video, I suppose. And these buildings are only procedural objects. By the way, I'm already starting to work on like a way around making these buildings actually functional, like somewhat functional. And right now I just placed I think 2 floors of those buildings there, or cut away 2 floors of these buildings and positioned them neatly so they fit underneath the upper level of that asphalt road, right? So they aren't cutting into the road. It's actually very, very hard to, you know, find the right heights of certain buildings when you're doing these multi-level, you know, area solutions, I suppose, and find exactly the right level so that it's not going to cut into the upper road, but at the same time it's going to, you know, be tall enough so that there's not like a visible gap between those. So that's obviously a job for procedural objects because you know, it's much easier to do it that way. Now the same buildings are in here, but obviously functional, you know, taller versions, normal versions, and they are going to kind of create like even a retaining wall for the upper level, which is going to be built later. So a lot of these buildings are only having their, like, one of the walls visible, and the opposite wall is pretty much creating like a retaining wall for the upper level, let's say. That's kind of a common theme, which is already, you know, there. It was also the case for those black and red brick buildings that I placed at the start of this time lapse, right? That's pretty much exactly the same principle, and it's even the same thing for this building that I'm building these roads over, right? So definitely all these roofs, well, not all these roofs, but I will try to cover most of these roofs with green surfaces that I can place some maybe trees or bushes on it and something like that. Maybe some, I don't know, like playgrounds maybe as well. Not exactly that one that I was building earlier, but this one that I'm building right now is definitely going to be covered with a lot of different things. I'm not sure if I did that for this episode, but some, you know, more detailing is definitely going to follow. Like I said, this is definitely not finished. This project is big, and it's definitely not going to be done exactly 100% in this one episode. So some of these places are going to be kind of unfinished. You will definitely see some clipping through the terrain in the cinematics, but you know, like I said, again, the project is big. Not going to finish it all in one go. Clipping together some of these buildings to create some different looking blocks, obviously to create the buildings that look differently from their counterparts, to, you know, not create the illusion of those, you know, Eastern European block of flats, you know, big residential areas. But obviously these buildings are kind of going to resemble that anyway. So, you know, not really going to run away from that impression, I suppose, all that much. And this is what I was talking about. I'm doing that second level from these buildings, which are forming kind of the retention wall for that level. And obviously putting a lot of fake surfaces in here. By the way, I had a lot of issues with the shadows on the roads. I'm not sure, you probably encountered it. If you build like a surface road and you cut underneath it, then the walls, the terrain walls, are kind of going to create like a shadow on the surface of that upper road. It's kind of hard to explain. If you've encountered that, then you definitely know what I'm talking about. And obviously all these like multi-level places, they do suffer from that quite heavily. So I had to provide like a fake road underneath all that asphalt roads, and basically the roads were kind of floating, right? So I had to put fake surfaces on, you know, the places where there should be a surface on the opposite sides. So that was kind of a bit lengthy to do and resulted in probably burning a lot of those, you know, prop limits and all that. I try to do a lot of procedural objects, so I don't go into the prop limits too much, but you know, some props you need to use. Now, this is something that I decided to keep entirely in the time lapse. I'm just building like a functional walkway from different levels all the way down to the train station. So connecting 3 different levels all the way down, all the way from from the upper level all the way down to the train station level. Doing also a invisible road for these for the stairs in here, for that park. So obviously people will use it, and it's actually going to be seen in the cinematics that people are using it, and it's looking really nice. And this is what I was talking about. The Ollie buses are going to be already in here as well, because I put a high school with quite a lot of capacity on the side of the crater, and a lot of people were, you know, going there. So I provided like a little shuttle bus, I suppose, that's just going a few hundred meters towards that place. And that's pretty much it for today's episode. So like I said multiple times before, this project will continue next time, as it's a really big place to cover in just one episode. I'm still not sure about the schedule for the other videos next week, but Aurelia should be here again on Sunday, so don't worry about that. But do follow me on Twitter for some schedule changes, announcements, and all that. I hope you guys liked today's episode. If you did, leave a like, comment, share, and as always, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching, take care, and goodbye.